After Monday night, we now know what the main event of WrestleMania Night 2 is going to be. So for all the people who don't see Night 1 as a true main event, CM Punk will finally be getting his Night 2 headliner for the World Heavyweight Championship against Roman Reigns. The first time the spotlight will be on the world title at WrestleMania since that title was introduced back in 2024. But after Monday, there can be no doubt as to what the real main event is going to be after that face-to-face with Punk and Roman, the best Roman Reigns promo of his entire career. So I don't want to hear people saying, well, it was one of his best and it was among his best. No, it was his best. And it only took CM Punk to pull it out of him. They dipped into their history with Punk talking about bringing the Shield into the company, which is how the Shield storyline started back in 2012, right? They were agents of Paul Heyman. They were brought in to protect Punk. And then Roman following in his footsteps because Punk at one time, he reigned as champion for 434 days with Paul Heyman at his side. And then Roman Reigns goes on to have his own long title run with Paul Heyman at his side. And he called Roman a part-timer, which he is, while Punk has chosen to travel to every country and be there every week. You can choose the champion at WrestleMania that you think you can beat, or you can choose the best in the world. They buried the shit out of Drew McIntyre and SmackDown in this promo, to the point where McIntyre had to respond on Friday. He had to respond, or he just would have looked even worse. And I like it. I think it makes it feel like there's real tension here between the two brands, which is something we don't get enough of here in this WWE product in 2026. We don't have enough real tension between two people or two brands. So Drew did respond on Friday as best he could. There's really nothing he can do. I mean, Punk and Roman, that's going to be the biggest match at WrestleMania this year, no matter what they do. Nothing he said was going to change that. But he said the two of them came across as being very insecure. Say what you want about me, that's fine, but what bothered me was the two of them trying to make this title and this brand come off as second rate. And he said for the rest of the SmackDown roster, if you didn't see that as a declaration of war and you don't wrestle every match like it's your last, then I'll show you the door. The man is a poet now. He said he's been through hell to get this title. He never quit when times got tough. He would never go part-time. He was there when the world shut down, and he's earned this title. And how about the men who made this title? The San Martinos, the Hogans, the Bret Harts, the Shawn Michaels, the not Dusty Rhodes, the Triple H's, the Stone Colds, the Rocks. Real men. If you try to lie to yourself and say this isn't the number one title, I'll look you in the eye and call you a liar. He said, Roman, I get it. I know why you picked Punk. On the one hand, you've got a 280-pound Scottish war machine, and on the other, you've got Fragile Phil, who's always one fall away from his career being over. And without your Samoan army, I'd kill you. So you made the best choice for you. Good luck at WrestleMania. When you two are out there acting like a couple of little boys and aura farming, me, I've got an entire roster climbing over each other to get into that chamber for the right to face the undisputed champion, the real best in the world, in the main event at WrestleMania. It was good stuff. It was very good stuff. The aura farming comment, it is so true. It is so true. Not just of Roman, but of WWE in general these days. That is what the product has turned into. You hear about these like bot farms on social media. WWE has turned into an aura farm. That's basically what half the shows are every single week. But on Monday, to go back to that promo, Roman mocked the idea of Punk following in, or rather him following in Punk's footsteps. He said Punk set the blueprint for what not to do. And he cited him going on Colt Cabana's podcast. He didn't name him, but he mentioned the podcast and all that stuff and him leaving, making Roman's life much harder than it had to be. When Roman was first being pushed as the top star, this was after Punk walked out. The only reason they even brought Punk back was because they went to me first to ask for my blessing. He's talking about himself like he's the Godfather or something. And then Punk stole his wise man. He brainwashed his family. He pointed out shaking Punk's hand like a man at the end of War Games, but then Punk held his belt up high behind Roman as they were walking to the back, and he was showing him up like some young boy. He says, I can pick you for this reason or that reason. That's not why I'm picking you. I'm picking you because I hate you. I've always hated you. And WrestleMania is going to be the greatest night of my life because in the main event, you will acknowledge me. I do find it funny how every member of the Shield absolutely despises CM Punk. At least they're consistent. Like every single member of the Shield has had issues with CM Punk. It's too bad the two companies don't work together because what a way to bring all three members of the Shield back together if they ever wanted to do a Shield reunion, like at the end of WrestleMania. Screwing CM Punk, like John Moxley shows up, screws CM Punk out of the world title. They're all bonded by their disdain for one man. My reservations over Roman Reigns winning the Royal Rumble, I mean, they remain. They're still there. I don't expect to see him again until after the Elimination Chamber. And even then, like, how often is he going to be present, for the build to this match? He'll be around, but, like, how often? The idea of putting the title on him when he's not around that much, I don't want to see that. We don't need any part-time champions anymore. Been there, done that. It makes the weekly shows boring. But Roman against Punk, that's a huge match. Even though they were in the same WrestleMania match last year, it feels fresh because it wasn't about them last year. It was about Paul Heyman. It's like a fucking soap opera. Where does his allegiance lie? This year, it's just one-on-one. It's about Roman and Punk and their shared history, their shared hatred. Or Roman's hatred for Punk. The best wrestling feuds are those that are rooted in real hatred. And when I say real, I'm not saying they legitimately don't like each other. Maybe they don't, but their ability to convince you that they hate each other. Roman did a hell of a job with that on Monday. And those are the best wrestling feuds, the ones that don't feel manufactured. You can sense real tension there. Now, in this week's Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer says the two main events have changed twice since plans were made for this year's WrestleMania. The original plan before he got hurt was for Seth Rollins to defend the World Heavyweight title against Roman Reigns, which also would have been an offshoot of last year's Night 1 main event, as this year's match is. And even though Roman and Seth have a lot of shared history, obviously, going back to the Shield days. They have more history than Roman and Punk do. Even still, Roman Reigns against CM Punk, that is a much bigger match than Roman Reigns against Seth Rollins, in my opinion. Like, I'm more excited now for that match than I would be to see Roman Reigns against Seth Rollins. So I actually think this is an upgrade. But he claims that the idea on the WWE title side was for CM Punk to win the Elimination Chamber in Chicago and challenge Cody Rhodes, which is a match that's never been done. Well, I mean, it's been like 20 years or whatever it's been since the last time they wrestled, but you know what I mean. It's a match we haven't seen yet. Certainly not since Cody came back to the company and Punk came back to the company. I would have loved that. I think Cody and Punk and the promos leading up to that, as excited as I was coming out of that closing segment on Monday, I think Cody and Punk could have been just as good, if not even better. I think that would have been great. I'm cool with Punk and Roman, but Punk and Cody is another match that we have to get at some point. Had they gone that route, Punk against Cody would have been the bigger of the two main events. So if logic dictates that the Night 2 main event is the stronger of the two matches, then Cody and Punk should have headlined Night 2 over Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. So WrestleMania would have looked very different this year, and CM Punk would have won the Elimination Chamber in Chicago. Instead, it looks like we're getting Punk defending his title against Finn Balor on that show, who already lost once to Punk and is about to lose again. Balor is getting the Punk treatment from 2013 when he lost to The Rock at the Royal Rumble, and then he lost to The Rock again at the Elimination Chamber. And now Dave says, with Seth's injury, Punk got the belt, and the idea was that he beats Braun Breaker. On the Netflix anniversary show, Breaker then comes back to win the Royal Rumble. He chooses Punk, and he wins the title, and he gets his big crowning moment at WrestleMania. But that doesn't make any sense, because in the very next sentence, he writes that Punk would then win the Chamber and challenge Cody at WrestleMania. So both of those things cannot be right if Punk was losing to Breaker at WrestleMania. So it looks like his lines got crossed up there. I'm not really sure what he was trying to say. It's Dave, so, whatever. There's typos, and it's funny, like, he'll post a tweet or even something in the Observer, and just like one word is missing or out of place, and it completely changes the meaning of what he's trying to say. And I feel like that may have happened there, but like, enter Drew McIntyre, who pushed very hard to win the title from Cody in 3 stages of hell because he had already lost to him multiple times. And that was something that came up this week also, where there was an item, I think also in the Observer, that mentioned Sami Zayn was pushing behind the scenes to win the World Championship from Drew McIntyre, the WWE title, at the Royal Rumble. And then there were people who were like mocking Sami, or they were attacking Sami, or he's playing politics, or laughing it off. And it's like, I don't have an issue with that. I mean, he can argue whatever he wants. Drew McIntyre was correct in arguing that he should beat Cody Rhodes. And I'm sure there were selfish motivations for it, but just story-wise, yes, he's 100% right. He should have beaten Cody in 3 stages of hell. I'm glad he did. If Sami Zayn feels that he should have beaten Drew McIntyre, he's well within his rights to go to Triple H and plead his case and explain why. I'm glad it didn't go that way, because I think Sami Zayn winning the championship in the Royal Rumble would have been the wrong move. And I am not feeling Sami Zayn right now in that WWE title picture. It's going to take some time to really reignite his story and get him back on track to potentially being a world champion, maybe next year. Maybe it doesn't have to be at WrestleMania, because honestly, I'm not feeling it right now. I'm glad Sami didn't get his way, but I'm not going to argue that he did anything wrong by, pleading his case and pitching to win the championship, because guys do that all the time. It's up to the booker to decide if it makes sense to do it or not. If you're not going to argue for yourself, nobody else is. So I'm not going to pick on Sami Zayn for doing it, but I'm very happy he didn't get his way, because I think Sami winning the title would have been fucking dog shit right now. So Cody agreed with Drew that Drew should beat him for the belt. They convinced Paul Levesque to change the creative from what would have been a 3rd WrestleMania match between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. I guess Cody Roman 3 was the pivot after the Seth Rollins injury. And Punk would then wrestle Braun Breaker. But again, I don't know where Dave gets Cody against Punk out of all this. That's what doesn't really make any sense to me. I'm not convinced that it was as simple, by the way, as Triple H having this sudden epiphany that if we did Cody and Roman again, man, the fans are going to really be tired of it. Right? When they apparently spent weeks and weeks coming up with creative to do that very match. I don't think either one of them wanted to lose that match. And there were political reasons for the change. But I don't really care what led to the change. Thank God they changed it. We did not need to see a 3rd Cody Rhodes-Roman Reigns match in 4 years. Drew had to win the title, or he would have been buried even worse than he was on the mic on Monday night. So they scrapped Braun Breaker winning the Royal Rumble. And it came down to, do we go with Roman Reigns or do we go with Cody Rhodes? Cody winning the Rumble would have been fucking awful. Okay, his 3rd Rumble in 4 years. That was just a recipe to turn the fans against him if I've ever seen one. Instead, he's likely to win the Elimination Chamber, which he's never done before. So that's a little bit better. To set up another match with Drew McIntyre. And he says that is the current plan. He backs up what Bodyslam.net first reported weeks ago. And I just cannot see it being Cody Rhodes against Drew McIntyre one-on-one again, just straight up like that. Like, you've got to add at least one other name to that mix. Jacob Fatu is the name that makes the most sense. But there's an argument for Randy Orton as well. You need something to change it up. We have already seen this multiple times. Either way, though, the WWE title match has taken a back seat at WrestleMania this year. And there's nothing they could do on the SmackDown side, even if they did Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship. There is nothing that they could produce that is going to be as big as Punk against Roman. In the men's chamber, Randy Orton qualified on Friday over Aleister Black and Solo Sikoa. This will be his 10th Elimination Chamber match. And then there's a big one on Friday with Cody Rhodes, Jacob Fatu, and Sami Zayn. All names that you would expect to be in the chamber, and yet only one will be coming out of this and entering the chamber. I'm sticking with a Cody win because I just don't see him not challenging for the title of WrestleMania. And then maybe Jacob gets a match with Drew at the Chamber show. But if they're doing Cody and Drew, like, again, man, you got to get Jacob in there somehow. It cannot just be one-on-one. Trick Williams is probably going to end up qualifying. So that would get us to Cody, Randy, and Trick. I could see Damian Priest qualifying. He had a little backstage dust-up with Drew on Friday. I'll tell you what I'd love to see. I would love to see Ilya Dragunov qualify. Get him in there. And then you probably end up with at least one name from Monday Night Raw. I would guess either Braun Breaker or LA Knight. And that could round out the chamber. If Breaker gets in, then the Masked Man is going to screw him over again.